What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing my review for Monarch Legacy of Monsters Episode 7, Will the Real May Please Stand Up? Let me walk you through the thought process behind this shirt, because I promise you it's not what you're thinking. All my Godzilla 2014 shirts are in the laundry, my Monarch shirts are in the laundry, so I went with Apex because it's just kind of a MonsterVerse organization. To my surprise, and I'm very happy to report, I did not hate this episode. I was really worried that it was going to be an absolute snoozer, and I don't know how I feel about it, because on the one hand, this episode was really slow, but on the other hand, there was so much going on at the end of this episode that really redeemed the whole thing for me. Spoiler warning for Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 1 Episode 7. We're going to be doing full spoilers. I'm not going to be doing a plot by plot, beat by beat breakdown for the episode. I'm going to be going through the notes that I had while watching the episode, rattling those notes off as they came, as per usual. So just that's your heads up. Also, I want to give a huge thank you to Apple TV for making this video possible. It's because of the support of Apple TV that I was able to get screeners for the show in the first place. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm getting so freaking good at predicting where this show is heading. I'm getting really good at it. Not only did I predict that Shaw's ultimate plan was going to be to bomb the Hollow Earth portal in Alaska in order to try and close it, but I also predicted the Kate, Kentaro, and Tim team up, as well as some of the other stuff that happened within this episode, so that was pretty exciting. This was such an interesting episode. I am really mixed on it. It's devoting time to a plot that is just unfortunately not one that I'm invested in. On the other hand, there was so many great payoffs within this episode that there was so much exciting stuff that happens in the end that I cannot wait to talk about it all. As I feared, it's too little too late. I don't care about May, I don't care about the character, and it's just too little too late, and ultimately the reveal wasn't even that big of a deal. She didn't do anything selfless for her family. I guess it's selfless because she was trying to protect those animals. It doesn't justify her behavior through any of the show, and in fact at the end of this episode she reveals ever since episode 1 she's been using these guys and playing them. She's been selling their info out. She's just been unreliable and has been a bad person all the way through the show until now. She just wants to get back to her rich family, but was that really more valuable than, I don't know, saving the planet, which is what Shaw has been trying to do? Getting into it all, I love that Tim rises up out of the dirt like a kaiju. He has himself a little Godzilla awakening moment here that I thought was lots of fun, and I guess we now see that actually Shaw was telling the truth. Everybody died in that helicopter crash. Tim was just buried in the dirt, and that's why he survived, which I guess means Shaw scavenged that gun off a dead body. Like, Shaw didn't kill anybody to take it. I kind of feel like Shaw would have made all of the Monarch people in the helicopter the same offer he makes in this episode, which is, hey, you can either join me or you can get out of my way. One or the other. Okay, so did May wait 40 minutes in that bathroom to drop one of the lamest one-liners ever? That was like really silly. And you guys waited 40 minutes to realize she was missing? I'm kind of surprised they even care in the first place, especially the way we ended the last episode. Kentaro was disappointed in May, and absolutely Kate hated her. We pick back up. Kate is concerned about May. She's already forgiven her, and Kentaro's just kind of like, oh, whatever. I want to wash my hands of this whole entire situation. It was like, what are the characters doing? They felt so out of place in this episode. Like, everybody's motivation felt weird and different in this episode than it has been the entire rest of the show. I hated that line where Kentaro was like, maybe she forgot them, and Kate's like, our May? What do you mean, our May? Dude, you barely know May. You've known her for days. I think at this point we're being told like maybe 2 weeks have passed. You've known May for days. And that's kind of how I feel about the whole love plot as well. You guys don't know each other well enough. I don't like it. Is May 21 in this show? She just doesn't look 21 to me. But they say she's 18 3 years ago, so is she 21 now? Because the actual actress, Kiersey Clemens, she's 30, so that feels a little more accurate. I would have thought the characters were in their mid to late 20s, between 25 to 30. I would not think that May would be 21, which I think is what this episode is telling us. Oh my god, Kate, leave Tim alone. He deserves better. Tim is such a great and underrated character. I really love the guy. I love the way he just stumbles into the airport all beat up. I love that Kate and Kentaro are the ones who approach him, and I like that they're immediately like, dude, what is your problem? And he's like, hey, hold on, wait a minute. What did I do that was wrong? Nothing. I showed up to get shot. You guys weren't supposed to be there. I really liked that. I thought Tim made the greatest sales pitch for Monarch, all about the legacy that their family has left behind, and I thought it was a really nice way he tied it in to be like, I've gotten to be a small part of this, and he makes it feel like such an honor to be a part of Monarch. And he makes some really amazing points about how they really can't blame him because they are the ones who go out of their way to involve themselves in his stuff, not the other way around. I also thought it was really interesting to hear how Tim was basically recruited by Hiroshi, and how Hiroshi's not the first guy he met at Monarch, but how Hiroshi was kind of a mentor figure for him, and it makes it all the more tragic that Hiroshi was forced out of Monarch. And now I guess it's confirmed that officially everybody is, in fact, trying to stop the next G-Day in different ways. As we see, Shaw is trying to take direct and aggressive action, which will probably have ramifications that he's not prepared to deal with, which is honestly the reason he was probably put in lockup, in that he's trying to solve the problem with a hammer when it shouldn't be, because he's going to wind up waking up other Titans or causing problems that have wider ramifications than what he's expecting to happen. That was a cool little Godzilla tag on the wall. I mean, they've certainly limited those as the episodes have gone on. Every country we go to other than Japan has certainly had less of that kind of stuff, but it is nice world building that I do like to see in this show, and continues to be better world building than the MonsterVerse films have had. Why is Kentaro so out of character lately? First becoming a comic relief character in episode 5, and now all of a sudden he's just whining about Hiroshi. All of a sudden he wants to just quit. He acts like Hiroshi personally attacked him. Kate brought up the point in the last episode that Hiroshi was probably leading Godzilla away from them. In this episode they've totally forgotten that that might have been a possibility, and Kentaro's like, he took one look at me and took off running in the other direction. Kentaro, I don't think it's that personal, and also you've been the dude the entire show who has been on Team Shaw. I just think it is such an abrupt switch for him to go from being Team Shaw to be like, want to wash my hands of it. And Kate all of a sudden being the one who's like, we gotta continue the mission. You guys switched in a very random way. It didn't feel earned to me. Tim's briefing on Godzilla on the phone killed me. That was so funny. It actually got me to literally laugh out loud. I thought his response to that was so funny, and he's like, there, you're briefed. And I guess that confirms that Godzilla did in fact disappear into nowhere. Why do you need Mei back so badly? She is so unimportant and hasn't been useful to you basically the whole time. All Mei has contributed is that she backed up some files. If you need the files, I'm almost positive they're probably on that phone she left behind, or you guys abandoned the search. You didn't go with Shaw. So you know what? Maybe you're not entitled to those files in the first place. I feel like it's very clear that the only reason Kate wants Mei back so badly is because she's in love with her, which I don't like. That's not part of the mission. Feels like there should be bigger things to worry about here, like, I don't know, the entire planet. And also, you don't know anything about her. Damn, Tim, get it. He's roasting everybody. He's roasting Kate and Kentaro. He's roasting Verdugo. I love it. It was nice to see Barnes return. I like her. She's a good side character. She leaves a memorable impression every time she's on screen. Gotta shout out Shaw for always being great. He always gives people the option. I love that he shows up and he's like, hey, I'm not here to kill anybody. I'm here to give you the choice. You can either join me or please leave because I'm gonna lock those doors. I don't want you to be here if you don't want to be here. And then you see, everybody chose to stay because they know Shaw's spitting straight facts. They also got Shaw and Duvall dressing like bad guys in this show now, so I feel like they're very much setting up for these two to be problem causers that are gonna get themselves killed in the finale, and I don't love that. I like that so far in the show they're being treated very morally gray, where the things they're doing seem to be good things done for the right reasons with the wrong execution, and that's what I like. That's very intriguing to me. Oh my god, Hiroshi loves his pencils. The fact that every single person who's met him has referenced that is so goofy to me. And I guess now we have confirmation that Mei's actual name is Cora. I guess it's not Michelle, which is what Shaw says it is in the last episode. Kate, you know nothing about Cora. You don't know anything about the real person. This is where I'm so glad that I have taken these notes as I watch the episode, because you're about to watch a man, me, undergo some frustrations and delusions as I was slowly watching this show slip through my fingers, being like, oh my god, the potential was all right there and you flubbed it. How did you miss the potential? Only for the show to have the greatest redemption arc of the entire season, because I was sitting there so frustrated thinking, wouldn't it have been cool if AET, that was just Apex and that's who Mei was accidentally working for, and that her code was accidentally, without her knowing, being used to create the mecha? Would that not have been an incredible development? I think it's great world building because, first of all, Mechagodzilla comes out of goddamn nowhere in Godzilla vs. Kong. He just pops up and we're like, okay, we've never heard of Apex before. They're the biggest organization in the world. They've got tunnels from Hong Kong to Florida, somehow, some way. They've got skull crawlers and they've got a Mechagodzilla. Where did that come from? They say they've been building it for 10 years. I didn't see any evidence of that. And so when we were introduced to this Mei subplot, I was like, this would be the perfect time to introduce Apex into this world. But of course not. Of course it's going to be AET, some offshoot organization, because the show's continuity always does the thing where it's so close to being on the mark and misses it just by a little. You know another character I really like that I want to shout out? I believe her name is Cullings. She's the data girl. I really like her. I think she's a lot lot of fun anytime she shows up on screen. Rest in peace, Outpost 88. Looks like Shaw got lots of friends over there because that whole entire organization went offline and has joined Shaw's mission, which is epic. Also, very curious that they've got like these oxygen destroyer shaped boxes. Obviously, it can't be the oxygen destroyer that's developed by the military outside of Monarch, but it was pretty curious to see those. And oh my goodness, I just gotta keep shouting the boy out. Tim is such an S tier character, and honestly, at this point, I might say he's my favorite character. I love him. I love any time he's on screen. Joe Tibbett is doing an incredible job. His line deliveries are so great, and his physical humor is fantastic. I love the way he gives that little speech and then trips on the step as he walks up the stairs. That is a fantastic understated joke. That's the kind of joke I really enjoy. Kentaro, May told you she has like 100 siblings and that every couple years a new one pops up. So like, why is it surprising to find out she has a family? I don't know why Kentaro was kind of amazed by that. You know what was amazing though is that we found out Tim is an enormous weeb, which was so much fun. We love to see it. Such a shame because Lyra within one scene became a better character than May, and within this episode Lyra stood out so much that I am so genuinely disappointed that we follow the character of May instead. I really like all the locations we go to in this show. I think in this episode we're in Washington for the most part, which was cool. They need to implement Randa's rule about backseat commentary, by the way, because I felt so bad for poor Kate driving with everybody yelling at her about what to do. That was brutal. Okay, so now we find out a little bit about what's going on with Cora. She joined this organization and she didn't really know what she was getting into. They're using her code for stuff she didn't ask for. Somehow that gives her the confidence to hack into the company in broad daylight, just sitting there in front of everybody like that. At least Bernie Hayes caused a distraction first. Here's where I was getting really nervous with the episode because I thought we were going to head in a direction I really didn't want to head. We find out that this company is building a cybernetic neuro-interface, which would be great if they were building the mecha. That'd be an incredible way to foreshadow that. It'd be very ominous. But instead it looked like they're testing it on chimpanzees and animals to create some sort of drift-like system, Pacific Rim style, which really got me worried that we're starting the journey to Jaegers in the MonsterVerse. Very Pacific Rim inspired. And like, yeah, I get that it's messed up to do that to animals. I get it. That being the catalyst for all of the things May has done since feels a little strange to me. Like, couldn't she have just leaked those videos to the public and completely ruined the company's reputation rather than destroying their code? Ultimately, it does nothing anyways. Like, it's not like May prevented anything bad from happening. Had May done that or had May not done that, everything in the timeline would have played out the exact same. Let's say even if they did finish the code in time, it's not like they would have gotten to put it to use early. They had to wait for 2024 to have the power source needed for it. It did dawn on me partway through this episode that I feel it's really abrupt that the falling out between Tim and Duval happened off screen. I would have really liked to see that because they have one throwaway line about it and that's it. Another thing that felt a little odd but I thought was fun was that Tim called in a Titan alert. It is so messed up to scare the public like that. Oh my god. But I also thought it was quite curious that he exposed Monarch in doing so, as Monarch's logo is on the Titan alert. But I did think that was a funny way for him to try and get to May. Like, you guys probably could have just walked in. That's honestly probably what you could have done. And even in the MonsterVerse, Japan continues to be superior to the United States with a much better Titan alert system, Titan shelters. Overall, Japan was just way better handled about the whole situation. How does AET even know May was involved in a Titan emergence event in the first place? Is Godzilla's appearance in Africa public, which it definitely shouldn't be, as we know in Godzilla King of the Monsters? So is it just that May has been reporting back to them like a spy over the course of the entire show? If so, how? She hasn't had her phone for a while. She calls them at the airport so that they can pick her up, and so maybe she told them, hey, I just got attacked by Godzilla, pick me up. Maybe that's what happened? And this is where you see my brain was going completely insane. I was on the brink of insanity here. They want to find out how to make something as big as Godzilla walk. You know, like Mechagodzilla. Like, they should be building Mechagodzilla, and yet I just knew that they weren't gonna be. I knew that they were gonna go some alternate direction where it's like they're building a new thing for season 2. I was getting so frustrated. Like, oh, come on, we were right there. We were right there to greatness. We were so close. Why did it have to be AET and not Apex? May, you should just straight up tell Tim what's going on. Like, straight up tell him, hey, I've been forced to be a spy. I've told them what I know. Not only that, but they also put me in this blackmailed situation so that I need to tell them what's going on. If I go with you, I gotta report back. She just instead dismisses her friends and is like, get out of here, leave me alone. because clearly Monarch can and will help, as they do, because that's what they ultimately come to the conclusion to do anyways. They bail her out, and I feel like she could have just been upfront about that. Why was May doing her big confession to Kate rather than Kentaro? Oh, I'll tell you why, because there is a really unearned love plot in this show. Remember when May and Kentaro were a couple? Because the show barely does. The show barely really acknowledges that that happened. I'm not into it. Hey, speaking of continuity errors, there is a really big one in this show. In episode 4 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters, we do the Kentaro flashback episode. We are specifically told that Kentaro met May 1 year ago, in the year 2014, right before the emergence event. That was going to be the last time Kentaro ever got to see his father, and is a huge source of trauma for him. Well, now we're told that happened 2 years ago. How is that 2 years ago? Did 1 full year pass over the course of this season so far? I don't think so. I think a couple weeks passed. Guys, that's a text card. Just go back and change it. I hope that somebody over at Apple TV just goes back and changes it. That's a big mistake to just accidentally let slide. I like seeing Verdugo eat some humble pie here, but she's actually way more reasonable than people give her credit for. Like, I get that she's a company woman with all this pressure on her shoulders, and she handles it very well, but it is nice to see Tim get some vindication, as everything he said turns out to be true. If they had just trusted the Randa kids from the start, things would have turned out really well for them, but instead they treated them like criminals, and it definitely blew up in their faces. Also, so I guess it was Tim's idea for Monarch to go public, which is a pretty huge step for the MonsterVerse, and I really liked the way that was handled in this episode. I actually thought Monarch was going to get exposed to the public, and it was going to be this really nasty thing that Kate and Kentaro did to Monarch, but I actually thought the scene was really, really well done and kind of beautiful. Oh my god, May, get out of here. Go away. Go back home. You don't get to join the group again. Nobody wants you, and by nobody, I mean me. Get out of here. I don't want to see you anymore. Also, why is Tim no longer with her? You'd think that Tim would have stuck with the gang. Tim should have teamed up with the trio. He shouldn't have just left the 3 of them to go off on their own, unless they're going to meet up again in the next episode, which they very well could. So what was the deal that Monarch made with this organization? I'm very curious, and I'm thinking, now watching the episode, I'm sitting there and my cogs are still turning, and I'm like, wouldn't this just be the greatest way to explain how Apex got the resources to build the mecha, how they were able to study Godzilla, how were they able to find the Skullcrawler eggs, and how were they able to be so well ahead of the curve? How were they able to do this all in secrecy as well? Because in the Godzilla vs. Kong novelization, we found out that Apex and Monarch kind of worked hand in hand, had some sort of deal where Monarch really couldn't interfere with Apex, and Apex piggybacked off of many of the places where there was a Monarch outpost to build an outpost of their own. So this would have been a great way to basically have Monarch give up their freedom and basically hand over the keys to Apex so that they could basically get one single person off the hook, which would be this very complex moral issue where it's like, do we save the one or do we save the millions? And it turns out that Monarch unknowingly tries to save the one. So why does May want to be called May in the first place? Like, that's not her name, so why is that the name she wants to be called by? Like, nothing happened that would make her want to disown the name Korra. She just suddenly chooses the name May over Korra, but she doesn't really have a reason to. Monarch going public was a great moment, but that feels like a really big decision that Serizawa would have probably needed to be there to make. I guess he's busy on some sort of mission of some sort, maybe going after Godzilla after Godzilla woke up. This Kate and May love story, it's just so awful. What are we doing here? A love story between 3 characters where 2 of them are related is so disgusting to me. I think it's so whack. Oh my god, it's just so ishy. It makes my skin crawl. Why are they doing that? Why'd they have to be brother and sister inside of a love triangle together? Why couldn't it have just been that Kentaro and May were friends and now they're no longer friends? Why did they have to have a romantic relationship? I'm criticizing how quickly the May and Kate relationship happened. I know that the May and Kentaro relationship happened quicker, but that was very natural the way that all happened. Like, that was a very natural circumstance for that to have occurred in. This was not, where May is completely double-crossing the team the entire time. They're in life-threatening situations fighting monsters. That's not the type of setting where you can form a healthy relationship. Rest in peace, Monarch. This one decision is a domino effect right here, because we all know how that's going to turn out. It's going to be really rough for Monarch for a while. Monarch's about to get railed by the government as a result of this. Not only that, the public's going to do massive protests against Monarch. Monarch is going to wind up on edge with the government. I know the Monarch's going to get a big budgetary boost from this. They're going to be able to put a lot more money into facilities and outposts and building up their G team and whatnot. But we all know how much good that does, because ultimately this decision to go public is the decision that leads the military to say Monarch can't handle the monsters. It's time we step in, and that is the catalyst for Emma Russell deciding that now is the time to do the mass awakening. So unfortunately, and I don't like putting all the blood on Tim's hand, this was a big domino effect that they had no idea where it would lead. Same way that is the next scene revealed, where I genuinely got chills that they did it. They did it! Oh, that was so good. I'm so glad they did it. Thank you, Monarch Legacy of Monsters, for pulling through. That was such a great reveal at the end of the episode. Unfortunately for them, Verdugo, in order to save May, has made a deal that will doom hundreds, if not thousands, of citizens in Hong Kong, and will also lead to the exploitation of Titans over the next decade, as they just unleashed the Mecha. The reveal that they are about to rebrand into Apex Cybernetics was so incredible. I loved that she's on the phone with Walter Simmons. That was so much fun. I wish we could have heard his voice. That would have been great. I know that this plotline could have been better if it was Maya Simmons was the one we were following in this episode. We were seeing Maya take this initiative. It would be kind of like, oh man, she did more nefarious things than we even knew about. But at the same time, I'm glad they didn't, because the twist ending was really effective. I loved the twist ending. That was great. And now we know exactly what this organization is doing and what they want. And I really hope we continue to see them pop up throughout the course of this and next season. And I really hope this leads to Ren Sarazawa having a proper role in the MonsterVerse, given proper character development and allowing him some time to shine. I loved the reveal. It was so good. And so now we arrive at the end of the episode where we see Shaw in action, and it turns out his plan was exactly what I theorized way back in like episode 3 maybe. His plan was to show up at the Rift in Alaska and bomb it. I loved that. I loved it because it's a thing that he clearly has learned from Bill Randa, and he's using his life experiences to inform his decisions now, and it makes sense where he would have arrived at this conclusion. His plan is to bomb the portal in order to close it. I don't really know how that exactly works. I certainly don't know what kind of chain reaction they triggered with the tornado and the lightning and whatever. I really don't know how that works, but whatever they did, it was enough to collapse the gravity vortex and close the portal to the Hollow Earth. Now again, as I mentioned in the last video, you don't go into someone's home and start dropping bombs unless you're picking a fight, and I do think that they have just accidentally picked a fight with the Ion Dragon or whatever monsters are lurking within the Hollow Earth, who are now going to be pretty pissed about the noise, and I think that is going to be the thing that leads to the Ion Dragon's return, and that is going to be the thing that Godzilla needs to get involved with to stop. How are you guys still careless enough to fly your helicopter low enough to nearly get frostvarked to death? That was crazy. I did like seeing the frostvark pop back up. That was a lot of fun. It was a nice little detail that he's still in the area. Did he get blown up? The frostvark just get blown up and killed in this episode? I think he did, which is kind of tragic for the guy, but it was still fun to see. I'm still on Team Shaw. I am glad he did it. You gotta close those portals. They're gonna leak monsters into the overworld, and nobody wants that. That's dangerous. I still think the idea is gonna be that Hiroshi is trying to find a way to lead Godzilla to the Ion Dragon or to the Hollow Earth to kill off that guy, and I think that's basically what Shaw's gonna want as well, is to close portals to the Hollow Earth so that Godzilla's job is easier. And we all know he's not gonna succeed, which makes me think he's gonna get killed in this show, but for the meantime, I'm on Team Shaw. He has no reason to make me be like, oh, he's bad. He's only doing things that are justified at the moment. Alright, what did you guys think of this episode? Like I said, it was a mixed bag for me. Some of the episode was really great, and some of the episode I couldn't really care about. I didn't really like any time we were doing a flashback with May's story. She's just not very compelling to me. She might have a major redemption arc over the next 3 episodes, and if that's the case, then I'm here for it. But at the moment, don't care about May. I know this was a slower one, but there was some great world building within it. So let me know what you guys thought of it. What did you think of the Apex reveal? And what are you most excited for moving into the final couple episodes of this show? I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. If you want to support the Patreon, you can using the link in the description below. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.